Good morning, and welcome to the Cyber Smart Morning News Update. With the always evolving world of cyber threats and defense, you need a source you can trust. FBI retired Special Agent Darren Mott guides you through today's intricate cyber landscape and brings you the latest headlines and insights and what it means to you. Let's dive into today's cyber news.
Good morning, friends. It is Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. This is the Cyber Smart Morning News Update. I am your host, retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Darren Mott. And since it's 9/11, that is a very obviously somber day here in the U.S., the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 attacks in New York, Washington, and Shanks, Pennsylvania, or Shanks County, Pennsylvania. And despite that, we're going to carry on simply because the cyber news just never stops. So if you are remembering a loved one on this day, then prayers go out to you. But let's get right into the first article here from cyberscoop.com. I actually have two good news articles, one kind of bad news article, and one kind of, hey, how about that, a big shocker kind of article. So since it's Wednesday, I'm going to try to do more of a deep dive, kind of talk about these in a little more depth than I usually do. So maybe we'll get you out of here a little earlier than usual. So cyberscoop.com, 4 Delaware men charged in an international sextortion scheme that netted nearly $2 million. The group, along with others, targeted thousands of victims across the U.S., the U.K., and Canada, prosecutors allege. 4 Delaware men accused of an international sextortion scheme targeting thousands of victims across 3 countries were arrested or self-surrendered in recent weeks to face charges, federal prosecutors said. The men allegedly posed as young females online and engaged in communication with thousands of potential victims in the U.S., the U.K., and Canada, including minors, prosecutors say. The men posing as young females encouraged their victims to expose themselves or engage in other sexual activity over webcam or live video chat, and then use the material to extort the victims afterwards. The suspects successfully extorted roughly $1.9 million through Cash App and Apple Pay, prosecutors said, in an attempt to extort roughly $6.9 million overall. The suspects are Sidi Diakiti, 30, Almani Diabe, 22, Abdul Aziz Sangare, 26, and Abdul Aziz Traore, 31, who all live in Wilmington, Delaware. They sound like they probably originated in somewhere else other than the U.S. That would be my guess. They're either here legally or illegally, but obviously they have scamming in their blood, so probably from Nigeria or somewhere along there, but I'm guessing. I don't know. The indictment unsealed Monday included updated charges for suspects previously arrested in Delaware and Côte d'Ivoire as part of the same scheme. These suspects are Hajj Cohn, 28, of Wilmington, and Saike Otora, 22, of Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, who were arrested by authorities there in February related to the same scheme. So that's the question. Where is Côte d'Ivoire? Let's find that out. I should have probably known that before we got here, but this might give us an idea of where these guys originated from. Didn't do that for me. Okay, I'm sorry. We are searching in live time here, folks. Sorry about that. It is in the Ivory Coast. So yes, Eastern Africa or Western Africa, not quite Nigeria, but in the ballpark. So there you go. So the suspects were charged with conspiracy to commit cyber stalking and to send interstate threats, money laundering, conspiracy to engage in money laundering, and wire fraud. Each face a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for each conspiracy count and money laundering count, and a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for each wire fraud count, the Department of Justice said in its statement. The FBI has seen a huge increase in sextortion cases recently, the agency said in a post on its website detailing how to recognize sextortion attempts and who to call for help. Financial losses are not the only impact of sextortion, the agency noted, pointing to a recent case where a 17-year-old victim took his own life. 2 Nigerian men were also charged in the case, Samuel Ogoshi, 24, and Samson Ogoshi, I guess brothers, 21, and they were sentenced on September 5th to 210 months in prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. So as always, the articles in this podcast are listed in the show notes if you want to look at it further, but that is the whole article. So good things here, but a couple things to keep in mind here if you're a parent, right? Or if you have friends that are parents. The thing you can share with them is talk about this particular scheme with your kids that are of teenage years, because teenagers, they don't have their frontal cortex fully formed. They are very impulsive, and they will very quickly fall for these things and then come and, bad things can happen if they can't, if they fear that all of this information is going to go out to their friends. Actually, I believe several weeks ago, I actually read a story from my book where a friend's 21-year-old son, this happened to him, and they said, what do we do? And fortunately, he had never shown his face. He had shown other parts, but they were extorting him for $500 or whatever. And I said, well, chances are they're not going to do anything anyway. But if they can't show his face, then he can say it wasn't me, so let them do it. They probably will not do anything. And that is exactly what happened. But fortunately for them, they were lucky because their son came to them and said, here, this is what happened. And they were able to help him through it. They called me. I kind of eased them out of it, and it all kind of worked out. So the key thing is you have to talk to your kids about what these cyber scams are, or bring in someone to talk to the kids about this. This is a huge problem going on all over the place. And this will not be the last time we hear about these cases. But fortunately, in this case, someone's going to jail. And for a long time, 210 months is not quite 20 years, but it's pretty close to that. So thumbs up to all of that. From the Register.com, ex-Samsung execs reportedly arrested for alleged IP, intellectual property theft in China chip caper. 2 former Samsung employees have reportedly been arrested in South Korea on suspicion they stole more than $3.2 billion in intellectual property to build their own chip factory in, you guessed it, China. Seoul Metropolitan Police is said to have arrested 2 individuals in connection with the scheme who were only named by their surnames, according to South Korean media. The pair allegedly collaborated with Chinese officials to start a joint venture in China dubbed Zhenzhou Zhaojiang. I'm not even close to what that is, but that's kind of how I've seen it. And one of the individuals would have been at the head. A former Samsung executive arrested in the scheme reportedly hired a number of Korean semiconductor experts, including the other arrested individual, a former senior researcher at Samsung Electrics, to work at this new company. These experts were also hired to steal Samsung's 20-nanometer chip technology and other company secrets to duplicate in China, police allege. The former senior researcher, who reportedly joined the company as head of process design, allegedly played a crucial role in stealing Samsung technology for the Chinese project. Police said the economic value of the leaked technology amounts to about 4.3 trillion won, or $3.2 billion. Adding, they're also investigating other employees who left Korean firms for this company to determine if more technology was stolen. The Register has been unable to independently confirm local media reports of the arrest, and Samsung hasn't responded to requests for comment. The thing to remember about this is China does this all over the place. They are looking to steal intellectual property. Now, the only, obviously, the cyber connection here is it's a chip maker, which makes computers, and there's the cyber connection. But I highlight this case simply to understand that this is one of China's methodologies to become the hegemonic world power, to unseat the U.S. in that by stealing technology wherever they can. Now, Samsung is not a U.S.-based company, but certainly this could be easily translated to U.S. companies, and you have to be, if you are a company doing worldwide stuff and big in the market, you need to look for this kind of infiltration into your company so that these things will not happen to you. All right. From cybernews.com, Paulina Okointe reporting, data leak exposes 14,000 U.S. medical professionals, what we know so far. A massive data leak at a Florida-based recruitment company has affected more than 10,000 hospitals and medical workers. On June 20th, the Cyber News research team discovered an open web directory hosting a database backup belonging to MNA Healthcare. The U.S. company is known for offering staffing services for healthcare workers and connecting them with the most suitable healthcare organization. It currently operates in 9 states. The scope of this particular breach is 11,000 hospitals impacted, 14,000 doctors' accounts, 37,000 potential leads, and 11,000 job applications. The sensitive data leaked included full names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, dates of birth, work experience, jobs assigned by M&A Healthcare, communication with M&A Healthcare representatives, encrypted social security numbers, that's not good, hashed temporary passwords to access the platform. Since doctors in the U.S. earn an average of around $350,000 a year, they're particularly attractive targets for cybercriminals. The leaked information could have been exploited by malicious actors to compromise accounts, carry out credential stuffing, and engage in financial fraud and identity theft. Exactly. Stuff I talk about all the time. So, obviously, the healthcare world is going to be rocked by these things all the time. If you are a doctor and you belong to organizations like this, you need to talk to them to make sure that that any data you have on there is somehow secured. But most just don't. A lot of the companies like this just don't have the right cybersecurity controls in place, and so these 14,000 medical professionals have had all this information compromised at no fault of their own. It was a third party that did this, and so lawsuits are likely coming out of all that. Lastly, dark reading. This is the no kidding kind of thing. This is Jai Vijayan reporting. Microsoft discloses 4 0 days in its September update. So yesterday, Tuesday, was Patch Tuesday. And in this month, the Patch Tuesday contained a total of 79 vulnerabilities, the fourth largest of the year. Hackers are already exploiting 4 of the 79 vulnerabilities for which Microsoft issued a patch this week as part of its monthly security update. 2 of the zero-day bugs give attackers a way to bypass critical security protections in Windows and therefore should be at the top of any organization's priority list for remediation. One of the remaining 0 days is an elevation of privilege flaw that enables access to system-level privileges. The other is a bug that rolled back or reintroduced vulnerabilities in certain versions of Windows 10 for which Microsoft had previously issued patches. In total, Microsoft's September update contains 7 critical remote code execution and elevation of privilege vulnerabilities. The company assessed 19 of the CVEs in its latest updates as vulnerabilities that attackers are more likely to exploit because they enable remote code execution, involve attacks that are low in complexity, require no user interaction, and exist in widely deployed products as well as other factors. One of the security bypass vulnerabilities, which is tracked as CVE 2024-38226, affects Microsoft Publisher. It allows an attacker with unauthenticated access to a system to bypass Microsoft Office macros for blocking untrusted and malicious files. Quote, an unauthenticated attacker can exploit the vulnerability by convincing a victim through social engineering to download and open a specially crafted file from a website that could lead to a local attack on a victim computer, Microsoft said. The severity score on this one was 6.8, presumably because an attacker would need to convince a user to open a malicious file in order for it to work. Right, so there has to be user interaction, but obviously they're exploiting it because they know people will do it. I'm sure there have been victims of this that has happened, and there's more on there. And so obviously, if you have a Windows machine, you need to go ahead and do that update now. I have a Windows machine. I didn't do it on Tuesday because I forgot it was Patch Tuesday, so I will go and actually do this after I'm done with this podcast. But there's a little more information on this if you want the specifics on some of the other vulnerabilities, but I don't want to get too technical in the weeds here because no one is here for that. With that, I'm going to let you go about the remainder of your Wednesday. As always, thoughts, questions, comments, always welcome. Darren at thecyberguy.com. If you are interested in being a guest on the Tactical Cyber podcast with myself and Paul Perry, let me know if you have something that you want to bring to the masses about how people can protect themselves, how the things they need to do instead of talking about doing stuff, actually doing stuff, and what it does and how it protects you. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Darren Mott. Just type in Darren Mott at LinkedIn or the Cyber Guy, CYBUR. You'll find that. And as always, you can always get my book if you want to give to your technically inept friends. Get Cyber Smart, a user-friendly guide to protecting your family, your business, and yourself online. With that, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday with some kind of op-ed. I'm not sure what it'll be by then, but I'll come up with something. Enjoy the rest of your day. Know that knowledge is protection. If we can understand the threats targeting us, we can assess our risk. Proceed wisely. Have a great Wednesday.
Cyber Smart Morning News is written and produced by Cyber Guy Productions. Feel free to email thoughts, comments, or suggestions to Darren at thecyberguy.com or follow Darren on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/DarrenMott. Thanks for listening.